It's a big day, exciting day for the University of Illinois, Fighting Illini athletics, and certainly for the University of Illinois football program. Excited today to formally introduce to you the 26th head coach for our Fighting Illini football program, Bret Bielema. As we entered this search, we had no predetermined outcome. I think it was really important to talk about our process. We weren't chasing names. We were chasing a profile. And we developed that profile after we studied some of the great builds in the history of college football. And certainly here in the Midwest, some of those builds included Kansas State under legendary coach Bill Snyder, included what has happened at Iowa under Hayden Fry, and more recently under Kirk Ferentz, and certainly included the University of Wisconsin under Barry Alvarez. Some of the characteristics that emerged that were common in each of those situations and in many others that we looked at as well. Number one, leadership is everything. These positions are all about leadership. Number two, you need someone with unshakable confidence. It's hard to build, and it's not a directly upward path, and you need somebody who's prepared to stand and fight in the face of that adversity. Somebody who brought strong programmatic identity, someone who's going to focus on the process, be relentless in their pursuit of a standard, willing to hold people accountable, somebody who could create tremendous buy-in from players, from staff, and that comes through forming relationships, establishing connections, and developing a true care and concern for the people within the program, making it personal. Somebody who could attract and retain an exceptional coaching staff. Somebody who would work incredibly hard to tell the story of Illinois football on the recruiting trail. Somebody who's astute at player development and who has a tireless work ethic. Here at Illinois, other things that we were looking for: unmistakable integrity, somebody who's going to prioritize the academic pursuit of our student athletes, someone who was going to be student athlete centered, and someone who valued diversity and inclusion. As you would imagine, I'm not going to comment on other candidates. I won't talk about a lot of specifics related to our search, but I will say that, as you would imagine, and as we hoped, we had tremendous interest in the position. A long list of people who have had incredible success in other programs across the country. And I think that's a testament to the place and to the people that we have here at the University of Illinois. As I've talked about before, we have first-class facilities. Thank you so much to the many people who made this beautiful Smith Center possible. It really has been a game changer for this football program, and that was never more evident than in the conversations that we had over the last 7 days. We've been able to improve our staffing levels, our compensation, to bring those up to market standards. We have now an experienced, stable, and I think very importantly, aligned institutional leadership structure. Our board of trustees, our system president, Tim Killeen, most importantly for my day-to-day, our chancellor, Dr. Robert Jones. They have been incredibly supportive as we've worked through this process and so many other processes. I can't thank them enough for their support and interest in our athletic program here at the University of Illinois. And we also have, and I talked with our student athletes, an experienced, strong roster that has an opportunity to return and be a part of this football program going forward. That makes this program attractive. People understand that we are in the midst of building this program up. Bret Bielema is someone that I've watched for some time. Obviously, his on-field record speaks for itself. 10 bowl games in 12 seasons as a college head coach, a career winning percentage over 60%. He's been even better in the Big Ten. Won more than 70% of his regular season games up at the University of Wisconsin. 7 bowl games in 7 years. His teams qualified for 3 Rose Bowls, and he won 3 Big Ten championships. And then as you look a little more closely, you start to see that some of those characteristics, many, if not all of those characteristics that I talked about in the profile, start to show themselves on the surface. Number one, he just happens to have connections to those programs that I mentioned. He worked for Bill Snyder at Kansas State. He worked for Hayden Fry and Kirk Ferentz at Iowa. Kirk worked for Barry Alvarez up at Wisconsin. And then you realize that 2 out of the last 3 years, he worked with one of the greatest coaches in the history of football, Bill Belichick, and that becomes even a little more attractive. Talk about player development. He's produced nearly 90 National Football League players during his time as a college head coach, 56 draft picks, 7 of those who went in the first round. At one time, 3 of the top selling jerseys in the NFL were people that were connected to Bret Bielema: J.J. Watt, Russell Wilson, Joe Thomas. He has a tremendous reputation for hiring an impeccable staff. His coaches have gone on to great success of their own as Division I head coaches. I believe the number is 8 Division I head coaches that his staffs have produced. And then you move even deeper and you start talking to people about Bret Bielema, and the things that you hear resonate on a very personal level. He's a big culture guy. He's an excellent relationship builder, which I think will serve him well in recruiting and certainly in our local community. He's a very high football IQ, and he's someone that, as we talk to people from support staff to coaches to former players to administration, truly not one person had an ill word to say about Bret. They raved about his care and concern, about the environment, the dynamic that he created around his program, and that spoke volumes to me. I won't speak about every conversation that I had, but I do think one was certainly exciting for me, and one that I think is worth noting. I had a chance a few days ago to spend 45 minutes on the phone with Bill Belichick, talking to him about Bret Bielema, and it was really insightful for me to hear from Bill and to understand his experience, which is, of course, had 2 years on a personal level, but far beyond that, in watching Bret as a college coach and working with Bret's players. It spoke highly about Bret's understanding of the game, his football acumen, talked about his strength at connecting with different groups of players, that he's really adept at connecting with the entire roster, regardless of a player's background, of their position group, and of other things that might be happening in their life. Said he has really strong self-awareness, a commitment to self-improvement. I was impressed with his willingness and his thirst to continue to grow as a professional and as a coach. Spoke a lot about his evaluation, both of coaches and as of players. Felt like he had a great eye for talent in the coaching ranks and in terms of his roster. And then he spoke at some length about the players that he would send to the NFL, both from his time at Wisconsin and at Arkansas. And Bill has a long-standing tradition of taking some of Bret's players either through the draft or through free agency. And he talked about how a trademark of Bret's players that he has guys who love football, guys who love to play the game, and they're thirsty to get better. Talked about how they were tough, how they were smart, and how Bret Bielema's players came in maximizing the potential that they had. They may not always have been a 5-star recruit, but he knew how to get the most out of those players on the field and off, and that was something that really resonated with Bill. And so I appreciated him taking that time, and I thought it got me even more excited about our candidate as we were working through the end of our search. Then you have a chance to talk with Bret, and all of a sudden you find yourself captivated in a conversation. I was really impressed with his enthusiasm for this position. I think everyone who knows me, and those of you who've listened to me over these last 5 years, you understand my passion for this place. And you know that it's important to me that we find people who aren't looking for the next big job. We weren't trying to find people who just want to be a coach in the Big Ten. We're trying to find somebody who wants to be a coach at the University of Illinois, who wants to lead the Fighting Illini football program. And that was evident from my first conversation with Bret. Obviously, he's a native of our state. He grew up cheering for the Fighting Illini. He has incredible appreciation and respect for the Big Ten, and in particular for the West Division. Having been a student athlete and a coach at Iowa, having been a coach at the University of Wisconsin, I was really struck by the depth and specificity of his plan. It was obvious that he has given tremendous thought, not just to what his next head coaching opportunity would look like, but how he would tailor that to the University of Illinois and to the Fighting Illini football program. I appreciated the thought that he had put into it, and really got excited about the vision that he had, which very much aligned with mine. Throughout this process, I've been looking for a partner. I think there are a few relationships that are more important within a college athletics environment than the relationship between the head football coach and the athletic director. I was looking for somebody who I can lock arms with and who can start to work forward with me on a shared vision, not just for excellence in the football program, but for excellence in the athletic program and all the great things that come from excellence in athletics to benefit the University of Illinois at large, our Champaign-Urbana community, and ultimately our entire state and our alumni base. I sensed a really strong commitment from him to our program, to our community, and to our state. It was evident from our first conversation that he was committed to recruiting in the state of Illinois. It was evident that he was committed to being a strong member of our community with his wife and 2 young children. I was really impressed by his enthusiasm for his family. I was excited to meet his wife his daughters. Yesterday, then I had a chance after we brought Bret here to watch him with our team for the first time. And I left that meeting, if I had any lingering reservations about any decisions that we had made, to see him in front of that team, you should have seen the energy, you should have seen the poise. He is an educator. He brings a tremendous level of confidence and experience to the front of that room. And you could see the connection developing instantaneously between the student athletes on our team and between our new head football coach. And I was just so impressed with that meeting. It was tremendous. It was intimate. It was close. It was personal. And there was a obvious connection and commitment from him to the student athletes who are now under his charge, to see them grow, to see them develop, and to lead them to a championship future. And that certainly is something that's important to me, and I know important to everybody who's connected to this program. So I want to thank Bret. I want to thank his wife, Jen, their two young daughters, Briella and Brexley, for trusting us, for being excited about this Illinois football program and about the shared vision that we have for a championship future for Fighting Illini football. And without further ado, it's my great pleasure to introduce you to our new head football coach, Bret Bielema.
Thank you, Josh. And that starts it off. I really would love to thank you, not just for that introduction, but also just the partnership that we formed now. And I couldn't be more excited to be the head coach at the University of Illinois. It really has come full circle for me to be born in Silvis, Illinois at Illini Hospital. I remember filling that out on a form when I was at another institution, and how ironic that moment was. And now to bring it to this moment where we're at today, it just truly has come full circle. I want to thank a few people also. Chancellor Jones, we met through Zoom, as we all do in 2020, and tremendous opportunity to visit with him and his vision and goals for specifically the football program, athletic department, and the fit to the University of Illinois in general. President Killeen, I haven't had a chance to visit with face-to-face, but thank you for the opportunity, and the Board of Trustees as well. I know it's a tremendous amount of support, a lot of people that make this whole thing work. And what probably got me excited about the University of Illinois more than anything is the foundation that's laid here now through the buildings that have been built, the facilities that we have. I'll get into the people a little bit later, but just the blueprint that's here already and the foundation that's set. So it's a very, very exciting time. Because we're in this world, this press conference is over Zoom. And I know right now, sitting in Prophetstown, Illinois, are my mom and dad, Arnie and Maryland. So thank them for raising a kid the right way. Telling me no when I need to be told no, and telling me yes when I need to be told yes. My brothers Bart and Barry, my little sister Brandy, and my sister Betsy, who's with us in spirit. Hope that I've made you proud today and will in the future. And then the new addition to my family, my wife, who I took a while. My mom used to talk to me about the process of getting married, and I'm glad I waited till the opportunity to meet and a chance to join the greatest addition to my life that I could ever imagine, my wife, Jen. Thank you for all the support. And now we have two beautiful kids who, Brielle and Brexley, they're actually in their own quarantine right now out in the hallway because they're getting a little excited too much. So we'll just call that quarantine, not timeout. But I taught my daughter, I got home late, I guess it was Saturday, after I went to the Penn State game, flew back and got up in the morning. And as all dads do when they hear their babies get up in the morning, go grab them. And I was able to lay in bed with my oldest daughter, Briella, and Jen was hopping in the shower. So it was just her and I pulled out the iPhone and Googled up ILLINI. And for about a half hour, we taught each other that saying. And I just can't imagine having any greater moment than that as a father. So sorry. Now, yesterday, a very rewarding day to get a chance to finally meet our team. I told them in a team meeting room, we didn't allow any cameras in there. It was just me and the team. There weren't any coaches in there, just Josh and a few members of his staff. I'm not a publicity guy. I'm not a guy that's trying to create something that's artificial or put something out there that's not real. I just wanted those guys to know that team meeting was between me and them, and the information that we shared was real. I also broke the meeting up afterwards into subgroups with the leadership council and then a group of seniors and a handful of other players that, by NCAA rules or NFL rules, however you want to look at, could have a chance to move on from the program and ask them some questions, but let them speak to me. So it was a really rewarding day, and met earlier in the day with the coaches and gave them the game plan. I've been meeting with the coaches from the staff prior to my arrival. I meet with all of them individually and talk through what they have and try to listen and learn and move forward. So the opportunity that's in front of us now is a tremendous challenge, one that I'm excited about. And the thing that I would like to express to everybody is we need everyone here to have success. Josh and I have obviously formed a partnership in the athletic department, but I'm talking about everybody in the athletic department, every team, every sport, every coach, every player, to the alumni, to the donors of maybe the smallest gift to the largest gift, and everywhere in between, to our fans. I can't wait to walk down the street and see something that represents the University of Illinois and say ILL and get an INI back. I'm very excited. You guys know that my history in the past, I love being interactive with the fans and being able to celebrate and embrace everything that it's about. So a tremendous challenge, a tremendous opportunity in front of us, and one that I'm excited to get to. Already in progress. I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed hearing from people. And the last group I'd like to add, just to make sure that everybody understands where I'm coming from. Any place that I've ever been successful has always been built on the people that are around it. So the people of Illinois that are from Illinois or have ties to Illinois, just know that we're going to represent everyone in the right way, and we're going to build this thing for success that's sustained for a long, long time, both on the field and off it. So Illinois high school football players, but also Illinois high school coaches, anybody that can help this program build its foundation of a roster that can make that happen is needed. So I appreciate that. And with that, I'll move forward. Any questions?
All right. Thank you, Coach. We'll start off questions. Robert Rosenthal from IlliniBoard.com and Jeremy Werner on deck. Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, Coach, November 3rd, 1990, you're an Iowa player. You come to Memorial Stadium to play number 5 Illinois against the sold-out crowd. What do you remember about the atmosphere that day? And what can you tell me about getting the program back to that point?
Well, it was a surreal day for me as well. I wasn't near as publicized back then. I probably got a little bit of playing time. I don't know if I was quite a starter in 90, but it was an unbelievable environment. Both teams were really, really good. And I did remember, going to the stadium and having a reflection on, for me to be there wearing a different school was not what I dreamed of coming up. I'd been to Illinois campus, had an Orange Crush towel in my bedroom growing up. And to see that crowd in that environment, and then to have the game play out the way it did was rewarding. But on the flip side of it, it's always an indication in this region, but specifically here at the University of Illinois, when you're doing things right and get it going in the right direction, this place can be as competitive as anybody in the country.
Okay, Jeremy Warner, you're next.
Bret, welcome to Champaign. Just wondering, Josh talked about your specificity of your plan, excuse me. What do you think you're taking over here at the University of Illinois, and what do you think this football program is capable of, given that it's had some inconsistency and struggles the last couple of decades?
Well, I won't use the same adjective. You struggled as well. That's for Josh. I think the biggest thing for me is, the plan may be a little bit different than places I've been before. I got right away asked about, my offensive, defense, special teams, but the root of good football is very simple. We'll build a roster of smart, tough, dependable players. They're players that doesn't have anything to do with their 40 time or their bench press or maybe the way they catch the ball or throw the ball, but they will understand exactly what that means and how that plays into the offensive and defensive and special teams plans. The overall goal would build a roster that is a developmental roster, but kids may develop and play the first year, second year, third year. We'll have players that don't add till their 4th year or 5th year, but they have to be players that fit the University of Illinois. It's a very unique place. It's a place that has a lot of pride and history, but it's not going to be for everyone. It has to be a player that fits into the mold of what we know will have success. And I tell you, more than anything, my wife and I probably wore out the website of their facilities during the few days leading up to the announcement, just getting at it and looking at all of this was waiting here for us today. I had never seen it in this light because of, my departure from the Big Ten Conference. So I hadn't seen the additions, and obviously this building. We came in yesterday, maybe about 11:30, so it was all lit up, and you got a perspective of the buildings. But then to come in today, it was before 5:15, and the lights were off, and I'd never been here. I drove myself in, so I had a GPS. I couldn't get in the parking lot because I didn't have a key, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get to my office. Thankfully, one of my keys worked to get me in the front door, and then up to my office, and no one else was here, and it was just kind of surreal to walk through the halls and see what's waiting for these young men as we go out and recruit across the country. And it's very exciting because of these facilities that are here now, and specifically our football stadium, Memorial Stadium, is obviously one that I played in and coached in, but I never been in the home team locker room until yesterday. So it's a pretty cool experience.
Thanks, Bret.
Okay, next we'll go to Alec Buss from Illini Rivals.
Hey, Bret, nice to meet you. First question I guess I have is, how does your doing the dishes mantra translate to maybe your coaching and recruiting style? Can you explain that story a little bit, please?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get it.
Yeah, can you kind of explain your doing the dishes mantra and how that relates to your coaching style?
Doing the dishes, you talking about my, obviously you watched the show or did something, right? So like one of the things that you guys have to understand that, like, sometimes I speak from the heart, right? So what I basically was making reference to when I made that story or told that story was my grandmother, Morris, my mom's mom, was in a nursing home that actually my sister now runs, ironically. But I was home on break, and she was basically in her way telling me goodbye. And she said, your mom loves when you do the dishes. And I said, what? And she's like, we didn't have a dishwasher, right? Or we had a dishwasher, and sometimes there's too many dishes. So when she got home late on Mondays from a board meeting, my brothers and I would, my brother Barry and I would do the dishes to surprise her, so she didn't come to a big pile of dishes in the kitchen when she came home. And we just did it. I know it made her happy, but I'd never really thought about it in that text. And what made it come full circle is my grandma apparently knew that story because she was never there when I was doing the dishes because my mom had told her. And so what I've always kind of said is everybody has dishes, so you can do things for people that maybe they don't think are as noticed, or maybe the outside world isn't going to see the credit. But if you just do something nice for somebody every day, it's going to come back tenfold. And I probably did find that out in this process more than anything. As far as how it applies to to recruiting, I think you just got to be real. You got to be sincere. You have to understand that, you're grabbing a young man from all over the country. I've recruited players internationally, and, to have a parent give you their greatest asset, their child, and entrust you with them and their development, not just on the football field, but emotionally and obviously physically, is very rewarding. It comes with a high price of accountability and something I don't take lightly, but it's something hopefully you will be able to see the rewards of that in the future. Hope that answers your question there, Alex.
Okay, next
Thank
question from Jim Matson from WEEK TV in Peoria.
Hey, Bret, congratulations. I know, in your time at Wisconsin, you were sometimes described as kind of arrogant, kind of cocky, maybe a little bit full of it. How have you changed since the guy who was at Wisconsin? And would you say those things were accurate about you at Wisconsin?
Jim, it's a great question, and we all grow, right? I was 32 years old when I was told I was going to be the head coach at the University of Wisconsin. You go 12-1 your first year. I thought I was Vince Lombardi, Tom Landry, Bill Belichick, everybody wrapped up into one, so I might have felt my oats a little bit at that point. But if somebody described me as that, it's probably somebody that I was competing against. In your case, you were writing probably for the University of Illinois, and maybe you didn't like some of the comments that I said or did. And that perspective always changed when you're now with that person or you're with that alignment. The thing that I have been able to gain, through over 25 years in this profession, and being the last 3 years in the NFL, is perspective. And to watch someone work on a daily basis with Coach Belichick, as Josh mentioned, I worked for Hayden Fry, Kirk Ferentz, Bill Snyder, and Barry Alvarez, 4 Hall of Fame coaches, and then to play and work for Bill Belichick for 2 years, and now Joe Judge this last year. I've seen a lot of really good examples of how to kind of handle your demeanor, approach things in a certain way, and be a lot more even keel. So I think I'll always be confident. I don't mind walking in the room and letting people know it. But on the same account, the compassion in me has never changed or wavered. And the way that I'll do things isn't really ever going to change. It might be modified or adapted. I will say this, even like a moment like today, dealing with the media, I think earlier when you're put in tough situations, you naturally, become adversarial. And I've learned that, it's much better to hear and listen. I never want to put someone in a position that makes their job more difficult. It's my job as a head coach to be a head coach and do what I need to do to have success. But on the same account, I don't want to try to make anybody else's job difficult.
Thank you. Good luck.
Next
you.
question from Scott Beatty, WDWS in Champaign.
Good afternoon, Bret, and welcome. Could you talk about building? Do you see this as a long-term building process, or something where you can feel that you can have success in the short term, especially with how players are moving about these days from other programs?
Scott, great question. And, we're all living in this 2020 COVID world, and it's going to continue into 2021. I can assure you that. So, all of a sudden I started hearing about these new rules and the effects on recruiting, and I see it as a land of opportunity. If you see it as a disadvantage, that's exactly how it will be perceived. But I see it as a land of opportunity. That's why I wanted to meet with the team in general. But one of the messages I gave to them was, I'm not talking about success 5 years from now. I'm talking about success as fast as we can, but we're just not going to skip a step to get to where we need to be. If you try to jump to the end of the rainbow, you're never going to find it. And I think the part that we have to understand as coaches is we have to do it right the first time. It's something I learned from my dad on the farm. If you're going to do something, do it right so you don't have to do it again. So we'll build this baby up the way it needs to be done. But then I met in a subset group with a leadership group to explain to them more about what I'm saying there, about their interaction, their voice is very important to me. And then I met with that group that could transition out of our program and express to them and gave them examples of players that, were with me for a short amount of time and are still reaping the rewards of that success today. So I am very excited. I think it's an ever-changing rule. Seriously, right now, we have a set date on when our players we think are going to come to campus, but the date that they come before that to put into quarantine, those are all kind of, they're evolving as we speak. I immediately was contacted by a number of coaches or players that were interested in transition, specifically here to the University of Illinois. And because I wanted to speak to the team yesterday with a true heart, I didn't reach out to those players. But now as we begin to evolve, obviously transition from within our program as well as outside in as a natural process of our high school recruiting. We signed 14 players last week. I haven't even reached out to them because my duty was to be with the players that are on our campus right now. And I'll reach out to those players this evening and tomorrow. But the urgency is now, and the roster is going to be evolving.
Okay, next question's from Joey Donia from KWQC. Go ahead, Joey.
Hey, Coach, just wanted to ask you if you could talk about your fondest memories of growing up in Prophetstown and kind of some of the values that were instilled in you growing up as a young man in Prophetstown that kind of shaped you into the coach you are today.
Yeah, Joey, I was actually, I guess I was 4 when we moved. I used to live in the Quad Cities. We lived in Moline, East Moline area. And I don't remember much about that because I was a little man, but I remember moving to the country. There are parts I remember being in the Quad Cities, but really my childhood was, it was in Prophetstown, but it was outside of Prophetstown. It was about an 8-mile trek outside. So I lived on a farm. Much has been documented about that. We had, anywhere from 2,000 to 300,000 head of hogs on 2 different farms. And, because of that environment, you grew up with your siblings. We had one TV. We didn't have a remote. I was the remote. I was told when to change the channel. And that was how it worked, Never really grew up anywhere with, travel. I'd never been on a plane before I went to the University of Iowa. The only time I'd really been out of the state, I'd been in Illinois, obviously Iowa for a couple summer camps, but my dad took me to a hog show in Minneapolis when I was 11 years old. And I thought that was the biggest deal ever. And we went to watch pigs in the show. So you begin to realize as life evolves, I was so much heavily influenced by just doing my job every day, being highly accountable to my mom and dad. My dad was obviously we had a farm, but he also worked in an ag business that we began and that he began to spend a lot of time there. And then my mom ran a daycare center that My biggest testament to my mom was she was started that in the basement of a church, and I think her starting salary was like maybe $11,000, $12,000 as director, and she retired almost 20 years later for $1,000 higher. I never took a salary increase just because she knew it was important to the community. So she served on our board, our faculty, our board for the foundation for the education system in our area. I think just growing up in that environment, you learn how to work, you learn how to do things a certain way, and no one really gives you a lot of credit. You just kind of survive and advance. And I had a tremendous group of brothers and sisters that I was close to, and then really just kind of the first week at the University of Iowa when I was in camp, I realized like all these guys had been recruited in front of me and had all these accolades. And the part I really knew right away is some of the older players always asked me to stay after practice and work against them. One of them was a future NFL first-round draft pick, and I didn't really enjoy getting done with practice and then going and having him beat my head in for another 15 minutes. And I remember asking at one point, why are we doing this? And he said, because you give me the best look. And I began to realize that, maybe I wasn't as talented as other guys, but I could outwork him and give him a better perspective of what he was going to see. So the value of hard work for me is everything.
Okay, next question from Matt Fortuna from The Athletic.
Hi, Bret. Congratulations. How do you think you've changed or grown, I should say, as a coach since the last time you coached in the Big Ten?
Well, unfortunately, I've physically grown. I got to take care of that. But as you mold this thing and understand, how you evolve as a coach, a lot of times people think you're so much and so greatly defined by your success. But as a man, as a person that has been in this profession a long time, you're actually more defined by your adversity. And obviously, I left one institution to go to another with an idea of being highly successful, and we did have success. I can never lose sight of that. We won 3 games my first year, then we went on a 3-year run and went to 3 bowl games, won 2 of those 3, and accomplished some things academically that had never been done before. And I left that place with a group of young men that got better in so many different ways. But to walk out of there on someone else's terms, to this day is something that motivates me on a daily basis. So I think the composure, the understanding, the big picture, staffing, a little bit recruiting, just being able to handle and manage a game. I think 2 years with Coach Belichick, I can honestly say every day was you would learn something in the game of football that you maybe never have even heard of or thought of. I mean, his knowledge and wisdom is beyond anything that I'd ever seen before. So that part is really going to be beneficial, even though it's a different game in pro to college. The fundamentals of winning and losing are still very, very real and similar. So that, I think, probably answers your question. But there isn't just one thing. I wish I could just say, hey, what it is. I think it's just the evolution of someone that took his first job when he was 32 years old and now has taken my 3rd head coaching job at the age of 50, and the natural things you've learned along the way.
Okay, next question from Terry Towery from the Associated Press.
Hey, Coach, and congratulations on coming to Illinois. I grew up in the same area as you, by the way, so a few years before. My question is, talk a little bit about where you are. I know you just got on your office today. Talk a little bit about where you are in terms of hiring staff, putting together that team going forward, and whether you have given any thought to maybe retaining people from Coach Smith's staff, or whether you're looking to start over.
Terry, great question. Just to be completely candor, I've told the team yesterday when I visited with them I wasn't going to talk with any other, and I hadn't talked with any other buddy but them. I wanted my roster to know they were priority number 1, and on my heart in that way. So I met with the staff briefly yesterday and telling them that I would meet with each individual coach today, and that's what I'm about 2/3 of the way through. I'll keep that information to myself, but I didn't come in with a set plan on, this person, that person, that person. I had an idea. I know where I want to go. I know where we should go, as a staff, but it's all about the process there. I always talk to our players about it's the process of winning football games. We have to understand, well, now as a head coach, through my 3rd opportunity, I do know it's the process of building the right staff. So we'll have information and news on the offensive, defensive, and special teams coordinators as I hire them officially. They will have a tremendous amount of input and influence on our staff that works on their side of the ball as well. But I will be responsible, obviously, for hiring each one of those players or those coaches, but that'll be a work in progress. But I would love to say, you know, hopefully at some point in early January, my staff will be completed. Because of this world we're in, we can't go on the road and recruit, which is a huge advantage for a staff that's never been together to be in the building here, to be able to meet and talk about offense. We'll be meeting socially distanced, don't worry, but we will work offense, defense, special teams, get to know our roster through Zoom, and then hit the ground running the last week of January. One of the things we'll do, we'll go through an 8-week training, both mentally and physically, with our players on a daily basis to install our schemes, and then also install the mentality and the physicality that we need to train with to get to where we need to be in the fall. After 8 weeks of that, we'll enter spring football during a 5-week window, which will culminate with a spring game of some type, and then they'll really jump into the summer, and then we'll jump into the fall, and we'll see where that first game is. I got to tell you, when I first saw the game was in Ireland, I was like, okay, this is going to be one heck of an opener, and then I forgot that we were in COVID, so whether that happens or not is yet to be determined, but I'm very excited about that schedule coming at us in the fall.
Okay, next question from Steve Greenberg of the Chicago Sun-Times.
Hey, Bret, congrats. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Steve.
My questions were asked, but it's also kind of been superseded by what I want to ask you now, which you're having a hard time talking about your family without getting emotional, talking about being back. You're 50 now, a father. You were on top, and then, you know, experience getting kicked around some, and now you're coming home. It's a real life story moment, you know, is what I'm thinking. Is that what you're feeling?
I appreciate the comment, Steve, and I agree wholeheartedly. I don't know, you know, like I think if you, I know some of you reached out and want to talk to my parents, like if you talked about them when I was growing up, I was always a very, I feel things on my heart, and I'm not afraid to say it. And that's evolved to where I am today. And you're exactly right. You know, I think about all the great things that have been accomplished, but the things that really motivate me are the failures. You know, when I left my previous institution, they gave me a letter that said I was fired without cause because I didn't win enough games. And I know what I did and what I accomplished in that building, and that wears on my heart to this day. And to be able now to have my own ship again, to run it the way that I know can bring success is tremendously rewarding. But to be honest, like I always tell my oldest, I said, I got to go to work, or I'm leaving, or if I'm going to be gone for a couple of days, I'll say, you know, even though Daddy's leaving, where am I at? And she always says, you're in my heart. And I said, you're right. And I mean, you're in my heart. And we always kind of have that little moment. And now as a father, I realize that, you know, it's not just what's in front of you today. It's about what they're going to be worth, or what they're going to be doing, and the things that we can provide for them in their future. But more than anything, the guidance that I can give them. I have a hard time telling them no, but I can say no. But that's a new aspect to my life that has really brought a perspective when I'm dealing with the men of our team, our roster, that, you know, sometimes everybody just wants to say yes in this world, but a lot of times you got to say no, and it's not easy to do. And you got to be hard on people, but in the end, they'll be truly rewarded because of it.
Okay, we have time for a couple more questions. Kedrick Prince from the Argus and Dispatch. Go ahead, Kedrick.
Hey, Bret, congratulations. I'm a Quad City guy as well. I guess my question to you is a little bit about recruiting. In this area, in the Quad City area, you have a lot of kids who, on both sides of the river, Moline, Rock Island, and in Bendorf and Davenport, they tend to always go to University of Iowa, Iowa State. What is going to be your sales pitch? How are you going to be able to keep these kids home? You talked about, you know, you being from the state, but, you know, what's the selling pitch to keep these kids in state now instead of leaving?
Kedrick, great question. It's really simple. I talked to the Illinois Highway Department. We're putting a roadblock on the road. They will not be allowed to leave the state anymore. But it's not that easy, right? We have to put a plan in place. And I would tell you this, and this is due to Josh and his guidance on the first day. We're starting to make phone calls, and before we prioritize, you know, the people that I need to reach out, and I only have a certain amount of time in every day, he suggested I reach out to the high school coaches on the state association. It's exactly what I did, which now that has grown into, I can't tell you how many coaches I've talked to across the state. And I don't care what size of school, I don't care if it's public or private, north, south, east, west, in the middle of the state. They will have contact with my staff. I will have all 10 of my coaches be assigned to an area in the state of Illinois that is our priority. We'll have a general contact as well that anybody that believes they have a player that can help Illinois win a state championship or win a national championship, a Big Ten championship, we want them to be in our program. So that's just a point of emphasis. I don't know any other way to grow it. And with that being said, if you're a player from the state of Illinois and you're somewhere else and there's a desire and an opportunity to come here, I'm listening. Because I think if we are built with the DNA and the structure of what we are as a university in our football program, we have a great chance to have success.
Okay, next question, Joey Wagner from Decatur Herald and Review.
Hey, Bret, welcome to Champaign. I guess I'm just curious, as you drive through town and your face is on these video boards and you're with your wife and kid, if we would have gone to Prophetstown on the farm when you were growing up and said one day you'll be the head coach of Illinois, what would your response have been, and what does this job mean to you?
You know, as I began to have some success early in my career, and I can't remember if it was my first head coaching job or my second one, my third grade teacher brought to my parents' attention that I had written an essay early on in life that after I graduated from Prophetstown, I was going to go play football at the University of Illinois. I think I was going to win 3 Heisman trophies, and then I was going to play middle linebacker for the Bears. So I went to Iowa. I had a 6-day NFL career and ended up coaching everywhere in between. So it didn't exactly go to script, but the intention was there. You know, I think about after my first year when we went 12-1 at my previous institution, they put a sign as you enter town, the hometown of Bret Bielema. And at first I thought it was going to be a little quirky, a little corny, but I still have that sign, you know, and it means the world to me to be from the state, to be from Prophetstown. And you know what, to be quite honest, to be gratifying to hear all these questions come in from around the state. Like I know where Decatur is, right? I know where all these towns are that are going to make up the roster of our football team. And that means everything to me. I've never had that advantage before. You know, when I was a head coach at my 2 previous institutions, I literally learned state geography by being on the road. And I didn't know the difference between one town to the next until you'd kind of been through it a couple of years. So it's very gratifying. I've almost been able to hit the ground running so much faster because I do understand the layout here. I couldn't find my office this morning, but I did know where the building was. And I plugged in the GPS, the stadium, and I got here. So the plan is a little bit easier to follow now that we're here. So thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you in the future.
Okay, we got time for one more question, and that'll be from Colin Likas from the Champaign News-Gazette. Go ahead, Colin.
Hey, Bret. Welcome to Champaign. I know you mentioned a little bit about your meeting with the players yesterday. As far as the senior athletes go, I know there's decisions to be made there. What was your message? I'm sure you'll talk to those guys individually, of course, but what's kind of your message to those guys as far as maybe keeping them around, having them impact this program for one more year if they've got the opportunity?
That was the message, to be quite honest, Colin, is just give me an opportunity. You know, I've obviously watched the film. I went to the game on Saturday night in State College and, you know, have an opinion about certain players and their abilities to help us win games. But if they're in the building now, we would love to have them be a part of us as we move forward. And wanted them to understand I'm not, you know, one of the gratifying things taking over as a head coach in my first stop was we were very successful in year 1, but we didn't win our first Big Ten championship till year 5. And then 3 of them came in a row. So that was the direct result of 5 years of recruiting to get to where we need to be. And I knew that spin would be out there, that he needs 5 years. And believe me, I signed a 6-year contract with the idea of being here this is a dream job. This is a destination spot for me because of my history and what I am. But I didn't want those players to feel that they needed to be 6 years from now to have success. We want to have success immediately, and they will feel it when they come in January. They'll have success on a daily basis, academically, athletically, and socially. And that will grow into a set standard, a process that'll get us ready for fall camp. And it's not going to be instantaneous, but you know, I did share with them one of our quick, easy formulas is, you know, to win football games, you have to stop from losing them. And you know, for us, it's going to be simple. You lose the football game in 3 facets. You lose it with you know, basically penalties, turnovers, and mental errors. If we can eliminate that, we got a very good chance to have success, and that'll be part of the process that we get to for next fall.
Thank you, Bret.
All right. Thank you, Coach. Appreciate your time. Welcome to University of Illinois and ILL.
INI. Thank you, Ken.
Ken, can we get the family video? Can we get the shot of the family? Is that available?
I was talking. Could you hear me? ILL. Yes. Can you say it louder? ILL. Yes. There's. You good? Sorry. You want?
That's all right. The questions were good. The answers were great.
Great, man.